Welcome to all Berserker Bowl enthusiasts. We have a latest chapter review, chapter 177 of Kengan Omega. Kengan Omega, chapter 177 review from your host Griever as always. And regardless what we all think of this chapter, I'm sure some people aren't happy about this chapter. I'm sure some people don't like this chapter for various reasons, I'm sure. But I can't really hate on the chapter because I'm finally caught up to Kengan. I'm finally through all the discussion videos. Definitely go check them out. I made my prediction video. I had the stream to get caught up, and this is my first official review video after finally being caught up with the rest of the community as of chapter 177 right here, right now. My first review video, so I'm just kind of excited that I finally get to review this on a weekly basis, right? So, chapter 177, though, is entitled A Wonderful Fighter. Right before we get into that, though, let's check our bracket. For those of you who don't know, when I read through Kengan Asura on live streams, the VODs are still up, and when I made a prediction video, I like to do a little bit of betting, a little bit of gambling, if you will, with nothing on the line other than I like to be right. So, other than that, let's just jump right into that particular image right here, which is the bracket. So, for those of you who weren't following along, I've been betting on the Berserker Bowl winners, and as you can see, I've gotten 2 right so far, but I have made one adjustment, and usually once I've made these brackets, ladies and gentlemen, they are locked in, assuming that the fighters actually end up fighting, so I can't change any of these predictions until the following round, but I have locked in my current choice for who's going to win in the left-hand bracket, which is Cao Pang. I think a lot of people are still betting on Cao Pang, but as I said in my prediction video, I can see Rahito taking the entire Berserker Bowl. Being the dark horse that nobody expects to win, Cao Pang took a heavy amount of damage from Cosmo, and Rahito took no damage from Mark Myers. So, realistically, if Rahito ends up beating Cao Pang due to Cao Pang's, not exactly stellar condition, then I'll probably bet on Rahito to take the whole Berserker Bowl. But so far, as you guys can tell from this bracket, we have 2 wins, 0 losses. Though the right-hand bracket is a little more different because I went against the grain. MC Plot Armor be damned. Kengan Asura showed us that for the entire Kengan Annihilation tournament. So I'm going with Leonardo Silva in this current fight. MC Plot Armor has its place, but not so much in Kengan, where all our predictions are sort of subverted as far as who wins matches goes. So, anyways, that is the predictions right there, as you guys can see. Now on to the chapter review itself. I actually kind of like the opening part of this chapter, because Leonardo is doing what we get a little monologue about Leonardo, and usually that means it ends in the defeat or the victory, when we get that little flashback. It's hard to tell sometimes, but I like Leonardo's monologue here because this is very similar to guys that just picked their martial art and stuck to it. We have a lot of fancy people nowadays with fancy techniques, fancy moves. Leonardo is sort of what Koga should be at this point. Because a lot of people don't like the direction that Koga has taken, and I get that. I get that a lot. And I semi-agree with it. I really do. I'm very disappointed in Koga learning moves that have nothing to do with karate to this degree. He should be perfecting and taking different things and learning how to use them and incorporate them in his own karate, which you could argue he does end up sort of doing this chapter, but we'll get to that. But Leonardo basically is saying he knows there's tougher guys, stronger guys out there. In the same way that Koga and the Seki flashback happened, Koga knows there's tougher guys. Seki told him, he goes, "You think I'm the toughest? There's way tougher. You can't beat Oma. You can't beat Waka. You can't beat these guys. Are you insane?" So I like this little flashback thing at the beginning of the chapter. I think it shows that Leonardo he's down to basics. He knows his techniques, and he's just going to try to master every single foot position, every single fist, every single grapple and hold that he has in his arsenal. Instead of having a wide variety of techniques and claiming he's mastered some of them, no. He is literally going to do that one thing. You know what I mean? He's going to perfect the handful of moves he is good at and he knows, and see how far that gets him. Well, does it get him very far? Not exactly, unfortunately. He does end up saying that doesn't end up stopping him and that kind of stuff, and it is a nice little flashback. Now, he does try his best to keep Koga in this sleeper hold. Now, the fact that Koga, let's be real, the fact that Koga gets out of this hold in the way that he does, I have a slight issue with it, but it also showcases... Here's the actual problem, I think, and I think the scan team or the translation team should stop, even if that's the technically correct, stop using the term master or mastering, and I think people would be a lot less unhappy, they'd be a lot more happy with how this has actually gone. Koga learning 3 techniques and being able to actively use them in a fight. Is that bad after 2 years, year of training? No. Saying he's mastered 3 techniques and learned more is the problem. Have you mastered the Nico style? I can say I've mastered 3 techniques. If he had just said, if the wording was slightly different, I think a lot less people would be taking umbrage with this Koga development, especially in this fight. If we just sort of headcanon our way through the fact that master, sort of like the term legends has so far meant, that legends doesn't really hold a whole lot of water in the community. It doesn't really mean what we like to think it means or what the in-universe it means. If we like to take that term master or mastered with a grain of salt, I think people wouldn't mind this so much, because realistically, the fact that a karate practitioner is learning Ironbreaker, that works for me. That works totally fine for me. And the fact that he still hasn't learned Iron Fingers, as Oma clearly states. No, he hasn't learned that yet. So he's only learned actually a couple of moves that he can actually use. And unfortunately, his hand gets locked up because even though he says he's mastered the techniques, and people have said he mastered, he hasn't, because he can't do what Oma does. Oma has mastered because Oma's fist doesn't do this after using Ironbreaker a handful of times. He's only used Ironbreaker once or twice in this fight. So quick pause here. I got this information wrong by checking back at chapter 176. Apparently Koga used against Leonardo when he was doing all those parries. He was using subsequent Iron Breakers, at least that's what's implied, that all of those strikes with his fists are Iron Breakers, so he did not use them just once or twice. He was using consistent Iron Breakers, so it does make sense that his fists locked up, especially after not, quote-unquote, mastering Ironbreaker at this time and stage. So just wanted to correct myself after going through the editing process. Back to the review. And so far, his fist is already clenched up, and his fist is already damaged. So, as a result of that, I like to think that, okay, if we just forget that master term, we'd be fine. Here's what I don't understand, is that he used Ironbreaker, and his fist locks up, right? Okay, fine, dandy. I find it a little convenient here that, because we saw in the last chapter, his fist did the same thing and it locked up, right? So, and he thinks about a way. I like the way he gets out of this. Realistically, if he was going to get out of the sleeper hold, I don't think he should have, but if he was going to get out of it, this is a creative way for him to learn what he's used, and Koga has done this since the beginning, training with Cosmo, Adam, and his master, training with Seki for body conditioning, training with his uncle. You know, he's been taking elements of these things and incorporating them into his own style, so taking a couple of Nico style moves, like Ironbreaker, which suits karate, and sort of utilizing it in his own way, that's fine. That part's fine. I just don't get, if his fist is locked up, how did he unclench his fingers and then reclench them? The whole premise of what he does here to get out of the sleeper hold is the fact that, shit, my fingers are stuck again. They've gone totally stiff, and this is the problem with Ironbreaker. It improves my striking power at the cost of using my fingers. He can't he can't easily do this. He's basically got 80-man-year-old arthritis afterwards, and it's like, that's what we've been told. That's what's stated here. We saw his fist already locked up last chapter, and now you're going to convince me that the time frame's enough. Like, it's this short? Like, then why does this matter? Because there's only 2 ways this can happen. You're telling me that his fist locked up, and within the minute, maybe 2, since he's been on the ground, it only takes a minute for him to unlock his fingers and relock them. So, bringing up the fact that his fingers got stuck, that's not such a bad time lag if you're using Ironbreaker. You're going to, most of the time, keep a fist anyways, though you could argue that a minute during a fight can stretch out, that could be devastating. Sure, But just the way they portray it here is that his fist is locked up, but he's able to open it just long enough to close it again and get it locked up again. I'm wondering about that. That seems a little odd. Just the way they described it, maybe I missed the point. Like, no, he wasn't locked up. He used Ironbreaker. The other explanation I'm thinking is that, no, he managed to unlock his fist, but then he used Ironbreaker again and utilized the downside to Ironbreaker where he hasn't actually mastered it yet, and he's just used it for his grip strength, for his clenching. Fine dandy, Alma explains that it works like Iron Fingers, but it's not Iron Fingers, and there's no reason for it because Cosmo says, so can you do that? He goes, probably, and we know that Alma could, but he's like, I've never tried because Iron Fingers is what he's doing. This is like the worst, this is a sort of a haphazard way to do it, and it's worse than Iron Fingers, but overall, yeah, this is an inventive way to use Ironbreaker where you haven't learned Iron Fingers and you're not fully adept at using Ironbreaker. So I'm like, all right, cool. As I said, the one thing I didn't get was the explanation of his fist is locked up, but he's able to open it long enough to clench down on Leonardo, and then it's clenched again. It was just weird wording for me. But once again, as we've talked about already, the term Master and Legend sort of gets thrown around a little too much in Omega as well, so, is what it is. Leonardo ends up getting out of there, but he seemingly fractured Leonardo's arm because he used Ironbreaker to its full effect, basically a rudimentary version of Iron Fingers, if you will. As I said, Alma and Cosmo already acknowledged that, saying, like, you can't, so can you use Ironbreaker like that, Alma? He's like, never tried to, but why would I? I've got Iron Fingers, which is better than that, so I wouldn't do that, but it does work. But yeah, he said, but it's still an interesting way. He's doing more than just learning. He's thinking for himself. He's coming up with the shortcomings of the fact that he hasn't mastered Ironbreaker like we've been told, and he also hasn't even learned Iron Fingers to be able to use it in a fight at any level. So he's come up with the shortcomings. He's sort of fighting against his shortcomings. That is the Koga that we knew back in the the first arc of the series, and that works. That works out okay. So realistically, do I like the fact that he broke out of the hold and now Silva's so shocked, and Koga's just going for him, and Leonardo's just so shocked. He's like, oh man, like he's taking crescent kicks, he's taking Ironbreakers, and he's just like, oh, I'm not done yet. I think I can do this. He takes a knee, then he takes an Ironbreaker to the face, takes a knee to the face, and boom, that's the end of the fight. And it's like he capitalized on the fact that Leonardo thought he had this in the bag. And then it was just like, how the hell did he get out of that? What was that move? And he's distracted, and Koga took advantage of his distraction to end the fight. I'm a little disappointed in this. I really am, because then Ryuki's in the background like he's some sort of badass when we all know he's a loser. And he's like, you've made it, Koga. Oh ho ho, I am so badass. I am so dark and mysterious. No, you're not. Yeah. I don't like Ryuki, if you guys don't already tell. I do not like Ryuki. But, so the winner is officially Koga in this regard. There's a nice little moment, again, with Joji and Shen, which we really like Shen. I really like Shen, and I like the whole, yeah, cheers, mate. That's my nephew. He's a relative. Cool. Like... I don't know. I just love their interactions. It's quite fun. But unfortunately, that is the chapter, and that is the end of the fight. And once again, a little salty. So we have to go with one loss to only 2 wins. So we started off really strong, as you guys can see from the bracket here. Sao Pang and Rahito both won their respective matches, but I did get the Koga Silva fight wrong. But that is the fun about these MC fights. Silva could have won this fight because Kengan has shown us that Alma doesn't always win. And he was our main character last time. We have seen that even the main villain or the Setsunas and the Agitos don't always win. We saw that. So, and anybody else with some MC vibes like Mikazuchi Ri or Sao Pang or any of these guys, they lose too. So that's what I like about Kengan, is that almost like sort of like a football saying, any given Sunday, any given match, anything can happen, and I like that. Not so much in the KVP, but we don't talk about KVP now that it's done and over and forgotten. So, yep, so we're going in with this with 2 wins, 1 loss. Unfortunate for me, but we're going for the next fight. It'll be Gal Ryuki versus Adam. I'm actually hoping Adam wins because that would be kind of funny that Ryuki gets his shit kicked. But I do think Ryuki's going to take some damage. I think Adam's going to lose, especially now where it seems like we are sort of doing a little bit of plot convenience to make Ryuki and Koga fight in the semifinals. But is what it is. It would be funny if my theory that they won't actually get to fight, but I just got the bracket wrong. It would be quite interesting to see if that was the case. It's like, oh, I was right. Ryuki and Koga do not get to actually fight in the Berserker Bowl. It was just my predictions were flipped. They were wrong. I bet on Silva when I should have bet on Adam. Ryuki loses and Koga wins instead, right? So so my prediction about how this can go down still might be correct. But I don't think it is. I think where we set up that Koga won, I think Ryuki almost has to win for plot convenience. But I'm still not 100% behind that boat either. And then we're going to get into the semifinal matches after that. So we're going to have to lock in, depending on who wins in that fight, we're going to have to lock in our matches for the semifinals. Sao Pang, of course, already in the left-hand bracket. So that's the end of the review and, of course, the end of the bracket prediction. So these reviews are going to be a little bit longer when we're talking the brackets, especially here at an end of a round and stuff like that. So because we're going to have to open the reviews with that and end the reviews with that just to refresh everybody's memory, to refresh my own memory, and that kind of deal. So the reviews are going to be a little like 2 minutes at the beginning, 2 minutes at the end about that. But that's part of what I found. It was just a lot of fun when I was reading Kengan to have the betting, have the guesses, have the gambling aspect to it. So, anyways, first review out, probably a little longer than it should have been, but what did you guys think? Overall, I think the fight cleaned up. The utilization of Ironbreaker in that way, though the logistics, as I questioned a little bit, the utilization of Ironbreaker, which does suit Koga style, and the fact that Koga is using Ironbreaker in his own way and coming up with new ways to use it, that's more going back to first arc Koga and what he was after from learning from everybody. So, I think it was all right. If Silva's going to lose, at least it didn't lose like a really bad way. I think a couple of flying knees and 1 Ironbreaker to the face was the end of the fight. Was a little like, really, that's all the durability you got? But he took quite a bit of damage, and Koga's not looking at his best form either. So, Rahito's the only one in 100% right now, so let's be real. But anyways, that's Kengan Omega, Chapter 177. Hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I hope you stick around next week for Chapter 178 of Kengan Omega. Now that I'm caught up, I'm kind of excited to be doing these reviews. So, anyways, like, comment, and subscribe. Fourth and most importantly, don't forget to drink but responsibly. Apparently I am today. As always, as I always do, and we will see you beautiful people back here once again for Kengan Omega. Looking forward to it. See you back here next time, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.